Hey everyone, welcome back. Now here is page 2 of my previous Mad Max comics I said I was going to be working on. Actually, this was done from me a while ago, last summer. I just never had time to finish doing the coloring, so now I'm showing you the different steps on working on page 2. Again, I'm starting out with doing the regular sketching on a regular piece of paper using my red pencils, and then going over with more details with the regular graphite pencil. And at this point I already transferred with my light box, which I showed in the first video, onto, this time I'm using watercolor paper. Previously I used the Bristol paper, and on this page 2 I'm using watercolor paper. I'll give a comparison on the two methods, because what I said on the first video is that I wanted to do some experimentation on different techniques using different types of watercolor comic pages. So I would use a totally different style on both pages. Normally, if you're doing a real comic book page, you're not going to be wanting to do that, but since this is an experiment, I'm trying different styles here. At this point, I'm using the Dr. P.H. Martin's India ink to do the black line art. Now, after that, I used the Derwent Inktense colors to do more of the more of a teal underpainting. Again, doing a similar teal and orange underpainting as the first one, but this one is more pronounced. Although I said I used the P.H. Martin's India ink on page 1 for the underpainting, when I look back at it, I don't think I actually did that on the. I think I did more of the using real regular watercolors for the underpainting, but I did also use the P.H. Martin's for some of the shading as well. But this one, it's a lot more. You can see it here. Now, since I'm using regular cold press watercolor paper, 140 pounds, that's going to be a big difference from what I did on page 1, which was a smooth a Bristol paper. Or at this point, you can see me using the highlights with the India ink as well. So what I noticed was, although it looks fine at this point with using the India ink along with the watercolors, I also use colored pencils on top of that for both of these. And in my opinion, the colored pencil doesn't really work well with the watercolor paper, because it leaves too much of a texture. It gives it kind of a crayon look. Unless you really want that texture look. I felt I didn't really care for the texture look on the illustration here. Looking back at it, I would prefer if I only stopped at this point here, just using the watercolors on top. And my experiment with adding the colored pencil over on top of that, I don't think it worked out as well as using a smooth paper on page 1. Overall, I think the experiment done on page 1 resulted in a better look than what I did with page 2. Page 2, I also did more of a cartoony look. I think the drawing on page 1 was more realistic. But I think if I do this again, I would either use the Strathmore mixed media paper, which I did previously on the Alias Grace drawing, and that had watercolor on top, but the textures came out okay, or use a hot press watercolor paper. The hot press paper has a smoother texture to the paper rather than the cold press, which is more of a rough texture. Also, going heavy with the India ink and the Derwent Inktense didn't work as well with the watercolor, because I believe it made the watercolor a bit too muddy. So next time I think I wouldn't go as heavy. I would still do more of the outlines in India ink, but not the underpainting. I would probably just do a regular underpainting in watercolor. Now, although I don't like it as much as page 1, it still has a unique look to it, and it's different things, different methods. So it's nice to experiment with different media and different techniques to see what you can come up with and what you can do better next time. Alright everyone, that's it for this week. And leave me some feedback on what would you like to see next time, and just some general critique on my art. Take care, bye.